Welcome to this episode of Sidebar, a Neopets podcast. I am Keaton Jadwin, your raging Neopets enthusiast. I said Neopest. Neopest enthusiast.
And I'm Sarah Barnes, your more casual player.
And in this episode, the Void Within plot is over! We are wrapping up with a recap of the entire saga with summary overviews for the final 2 chapters. We also touch upon what's new in Neopia with the month of relaxing, with highlights including Fyora Day, Jub Jub Day, Pet Appreciation Day, and 3 new avatars, which are my favorite. We also spend some time sharing a little bit more about us, our experience with Neopets over the years, and how it's impacted our lives.
So finish up your dip in the rainbow fountain because it's time for another episode of Sidebar.
So what's new in Neopia? Everyone, welcome. Welcome to the month of relaxing. We are reviewing 3 Neopian holidays from the first few weeks of the month, which include Fyora Day, Jub Jub Day, and Pet Appreciation Day. We're going to jump right in. Sarah, just so you know, June 2nd is Fyora Day, and we basically got nothing. Which honestly, girls going through a lot right now, especially if you're updated with The Void Within. So I know this was also considered one of the days that the team was like pulling back on, like they weren't going to create a lot of new content for. But we did get a Fyora Day art gallery that week.
Here's my question. In the past, has June 2nd been Fyora Day or has it been Queen Fyora Day?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's just been Fyora Day.
Okay. Because no spoilers yet, but you know, that's an interesting detail to make note of.
Yep. Oh, which, however, I did go looking and I wanted to see. I was like, okay, so Fyora Day, we didn't really get anything. But I was like, you know what? I want to do like a cute little moment of like, who's Fyora? Or like, what is Fyora? Obviously, we know what she is. But, or do we? But I went looking at her Neopedia article, and something that I wanted to share. From the tail end of it, it says, if you are very lucky, Fyora may drop by to give you a quest. Though the quests are never easy, the rewards are well worth it. And then in parentheticals, as for the rumor that Fyora uses quest profits to pay for her burrito craze, completely untrue. And that was a little bit of lore that I probably forgot or knew and then forgot. But I was like, yo, girl, she likes burritos? Me too.
I think it is wild that this is part of her official description on the website because she does not look like a burrito girly to me.
She doesn't, but like, I'm not upset. But can you imagine Fyora walking into a Chipotle being like, yeah, burrito to go, please? Now you can. Now you can. Imagine this regal, beautiful fairy, purpley pink as all get out, lovely wings, and just walking in Chipotle and being like, can I get a burrito to go? Do you think she's a chicken, steak, carnitas, or barbacoa girly?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. My immediate thought would be chicken, but I didn't think she'd be a burrito girly to begin with. So then that makes me want to go, like, let's go all the way to barbacoa. If we're going to do it, let's do it right.
You're not wrong. And I would also say that I haven't even thought to look. Does chicken exist in Neopia? Would she be a veggie girly? I don't know. I don't know her diet. See, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this brings about a whole other thing. Like, what's burrito craze? Let me just type in the word chicken. Okay, chicken. Okay, everyone, newsflash. Chicken does exist in Neopia, and I feel so silly because there's actually so much chicken. So much chicken. So I think you might be right that Fyora is a chicken girly. Oh, yeah, we got so many. I also forgot we have a chicken nugget chomby body Neopoint outfit. Yeah, we got chicken leg wing, we got chicken-tastic ice lollies, we got fresh chicken broth. Okay, she's a chicken girly. Fyora is a chicken girly. She's ordering chicken at Chipotle.
I want someone who does a killer Queen Fyora cosplay to go to Chipotle.
Of which there are a few.
And get a chicken burrito.
Neopets Chipotle collaboration. Let's go.
There we go.
Chipotle all through college, so this feels like a match made in heaven for me. So,
all of your interests are aligned.
That's all to say we spent some time on Fyora Day and Fyora, so I feel like we've celebrated her appropriately.
Yes. Congratulations to Fyora for existing.
And liking burritos. June 6th is Jub Jub Day, which we got a water Jub Jub and Jub Jub melted candle outfit. First off, possessed anyone from the team to make it, but then also, I'm not mad.
No, it's so cute.
I'm not upset.
Why?
He's like
Why
smiling,
is it so
even though the candle is almost burnt out entirely, but he's
That's
still
what
happy.
I'm saying. How did they make a melted candle look that cute? It makes no sense.
Congratulations, art team.
So cute. It's so random. It makes me angry how random it is, but it's so adorable.
No, I completely agree. And even the flame is like extra. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like she's like, I'm a flame. But then, yeah, story-wise, I know that Jub Jubs are small, but I still think that there's something to be said about how low it is to burning out. Like, it's almost sad. But the fact that it's not bothered adds to the overall comedy aesthetic that I appreciate.
I've never wanted to cuddle a candle before, but here we are.
There's a first time for everything. And speaking of cuddling a candle, would you cuddle a flan? Because that was the mini mystery capsule that we got, was a Jub Jub flan, which also looks cute to the point where I don't want to eat him because he would absolutely be in pain.
Somebody looked at that Jub Jub and said, you know what this thing would be cute as? Flan.
I don't know how you even come up with the idea that a Jub Jub would even look like flan to you.
Yes.
Or a candle. But it kind of works.
It completely works. It completely works.
She's cute.
Very cute.
Sweet enough to eat. And then moving on into June 8th, we had Pet Appreciation Day, which we did get quite a bit for. Namely, 4 new Pet colors. We have a Tattoo Arkmite, a Tattoo Wharf, a Dung Rock, and a Moroccan Lilfisk. I don't know. I appreciate that we got 4 new colors, and 2 of them being the new tattoo colors. Pretty cool.
Do your pets have pets?
Good question. In my brain, I know it's canon that pets have pets, and even pets can have pets. But I almost prefer them as just like separate, like a creature that just exists in Neopia. I don't necessarily think them as like a domesticated being. And it's strange because my pets do have pets. Not all of them. But they're more of an item, which maybe is more to say of how I traversed Neopets rather than like, I love avatars. There's a ton of pet avatars. You attach the pet to your pet to get an avatar. So I almost see it transactional as opposed to a pet.
They kind of view the pet as an additional customization item for your pet. And I know a lot of people will work to make sure that their pet aesthetically really matches their main pets. And that's kind of their main function of the pet. But yeah, I think they're adorable. I think they're cute. I just wish that you could do more with them.
I agree. And then, wait, really quick. So you have 2 pets. Do your 2 pets have pets?
They do. I am obsessed with the pets. So I know that this is a shocker, but I really love Neopets for the cuteness factor.
I had no idea.
I feel like I talk about how cute everything is at least 3 times in every episode. So, it's one of those things now. But I have a lot of pets in my gallery because my gallery is just an assortment of things that I have found on the site and want to display that I have. So I have some pets in there. But then my Kachik has the Faerie because I could not handle it when Junie almost was no longer with us in the Void Within plot. And I said to myself, that's it. I have to make a Faerie pet for my main pet so my main pet can protect it.
That's actually really cute. I think that's so innocent and also a perfect reason to have that type of pet.
And then my cow has whatever the chameleon version of a pet is. I'm obsessed with the movie Tangled. So that pet's name is Pascal.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
Adorable.
Adorable. I couldn't even tell you which ones of mine have pets because they have been relegated to you're an avatar item.
Speaking of avatars.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is a new section that I'm inputting because I love avatars and I have not expressed that. And I feel like, we're going to be talking about Neopets and what it means to us. I'm an avatar collector. I have 239 and nope, sorry. I have 339. Is that right?
Dang.
I got to double check to make sure.
Well, you just changed the quantity by 100. So yeah, I think...
It's 339. No!
Okay, great. Keaton, what is it?
Yo, I'm so good at avatar collecting that I know what number I have. I have 429. Oh my God, I literally doubled it. I was like 229, 329, 429. Final answer. I'm looking at my lookup. I have 429 secret avatars.
Congratulations. Round of applause for Keaton.
Thank you. So more to the point that I love them. And so this little section here, I just want to, if there's any updates to like new avatars, I want to put them in here and just let people know. So there's 3 of them. They all released on the same day of June 2nd. One is the Stamp Collector Other 4, which you get for finishing that stamp album. There's the Void Vanquisher avatar, which you had to have dealt some sort of damage to the Vasivus raid in the last chapter. And then Warlock of the Void, which is you had to deal a collective damage of 50,000 hit points on Vasivus. I was able to get 2 of the 3. I am not a stamp collector because they're very pricey, very expensive. But I did spend 5 hours, 6 hours on getting the Warlock of the Void. So it threw me back to summer like of 2007, 2006, where I used to like chug Mountain Dew, but I was like chugging Mountain Dew, watching Boy Meets World reruns at 3 a.m, doing the Altador plot or something. So it really threw me back to like summertime. And those are the 3 avatars. Sarah, you're not an avatar collector per se, right?
I'm not. I've gotten some of them that are like easier to get. There are secret ones that, don't require as much effort. I've always viewed it as you use the avatar on the Neo boards. And so there have been certain avatars that I've wanted to get back when I was more active on the Neo boards. So that way I had an avatar that like represented my personality well on the Neo boards. But that's really been more of a functional thing for me than a collector quest.
That's completely fair. There's hundreds of ways to get an avatar. Some of them are looking like at a pet lookup of some sort. Mm-hmm. But then you think of the ones that are tied to merchandise. And the fact that certain merchandise will sell better if there is a digital good that people want attached to it. And that's not a Neopets issue. They didn't start that, although they were probably on the forefront of it back in the early 2000s with like rare item codes. But I just think it's so interesting to think about how it kind of bleeds into real life. Now that we've exhausted the avatar conversation, y'all, we're getting an Altador Cup this year. For those that don't remember, last year it was the year that never happened, or the year that never been. It's the year that could have been. I'm so sorry.
I thought it was just the gray year.
Oh, the Altador Cup that never was is the trophy. The Altador Cup that never was. So we're getting one this year. Very excited. The press tour kicks off on Monday, June 22nd, which is so soon. And we get a new team, which has already kind of leaked in the NC Mall, like the stickers that you can buy for the Neo board. It's Neopia Central.
That's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. I'm very excited for that. The press tour will introduce daily trivia that will award prize shop points. And then a battle pass that will be available, similar to the adventure pass that was introduced for the last episode of The Void Within. So I'm curious what that's going to look like. And then there will be the NC event Altador from the Clouds component for those that do like to participate in the NC event. And then, perhaps the most exciting piece of news is we get a new game that will be part of the cup called Obstacle Course Caper.
I'm interested in what this new game is going to be. Did they release like a preview of what this game looks like or anything, or did they just give us a name?
They gave us a name with like some key art, like artwork thumbnail, which is a UU ball that is like brushing past a mace. Is that what that's called?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In between some sharply pointed tree chunks.
So it looks like we probably will use the UU ball and shoot it through an obstacle course that probably gets harder. I have no idea.
Maybe be guiding it with like the arrow keys. I could see that being a thing. That would make me happy. That would be fun. I would love that style of game added to the lineup.
There's a lot that's new in Neopia this month, but one of the last things I want to mention was there's a Kiko Match III challenge that was hinted at. So I don't know if anyone, did you participate in the Sockman Soiree challenge?
I did not.
That's fine. Basically, it's like a community game where like you do your best and then you place your score on the leadership board. And if you are good enough and you participate, you get a prize. So I'm excited that they're doing that because Sarah, do you have the Neopets Companion app downloaded?
I don't. I feel like I need to get it downloaded though.
I will say it's really great. It's functional, but it's not fully functional to where, like, if you want to play the game, get on the browser. But if you want to feed your pet, if you want to do a couple of your dailies, you want to do wheel spins, if you want to play, there's like 3 games that they've made. And one of them is Kiko Match 3. And it's kind of what people have kind of requested when it's like, can you make Neopets an app? Mm-hmm. So it's like an interface of the website, but it is still an app form. And it looks really great. So whoever's developing it and whoever's doing all of the design work knows what they're doing. So I'm very excited to see how that kind of grows over time. Highly recommend it, but looking forward to the community challenge at some point this summer. The last thing I wanted to mention for the month of relaxing is that we're getting new pet styles that are Pride themed, which is really exciting because Neopets has announced that they will be doing a donation to the It Gets Better project for those specific pet styles when purchased. So that is the first half of the month of relaxing and what is new in Neopia.
All right, so the final episode of The Void Within is officially here. We've been covering the Void Within story over our last couple podcast episodes, and today we are covering the last 2 chapters of the plot. As this saga comes to a close, we recognize that TNT has teased an epilogue of sorts in the release notes dated June 9th. So that means we'll likely have some further discussion on Sidebar episodes about whatever that epilogue looks like. And this is just your reminder that this is not a spoiler-free zone. This is your official spoiler alert. So if you haven't caught up on the story yet, go ahead and either listen to our recap on our last episodes or jump onto the website and read through these last couple chapters.
So chapter 17 is a biggie. We start it with Ozzy, who's currently being like held within the grips of Vesuvius as people are trying to fight Vesuvius, but they don't want to hit Ozzy because like hitting Ozzy is like not cute because we want Ozzy, but we don't want Vesuvius. Queen Fyora risks it all, knowing that she's basically being drained of all energy right now because of being hit by the acrimonious paintbrush. And she does a huge blast and attacks Vesuvius. That's like happening on one end. Then Styx comes back. We lost Styx for a bit because he was scared away when he was trying to like stand up to Drakara. He comes back with Luperus from the Haunted Woods, and Luperus starts helping to fight. And essentially we are like in this whole world against Vesuvius. And this does kick off the big Battle Dome raid against Vesuvius. Basically, this dude, he like up levels like 3 different times with a crap ton of hit points, eventually hitting like billions of hit points. Story-wise, he was basically the more you fight, the stronger he gets kind of idea. So like he just continually got more and more powerful. So while we're taking down Vesuvius, Orion also appears and he reveals that he's basically being possessed. Like there's someone inside of him. We know this because his eyes glow a different color, but we don't know exactly who that is. I think that's part of the plot point that like they kind of had to like readdress later in an epilogue or a different event because we don't really know much about Orion and who he's being possessed by. Oh my God, what just connected for me was, do you happen to remember when they were leaving the cave with all the puzzle? One of the last panels is, I believe, the ghost drake that is the same color of Orion's eyes. And there's musical notes that are surrounding that like ghost being. Now that I just made that connection with the coloring of the two, I think Orion is being possessed by this Drake character from ancient times. And Orion explains that Vesuvius can only thrive in worlds that are, quote, completely devoid of vibrancy. Orion also says the void wasn't always like that, you know. Not only do we know that he thrives in a world that is not vibrant or lacks vibrancy, the void, which we don't know about still, about what it is exactly, other than a rift to a different time where I guess time doesn't pass the same way because Nyx comes back 20 years later and looks the same. But the void was not always devoid of vibrancy as well. So we don't even know what the void is. So that's a big reveal. And then second, Orion also notes that Iridesia's radiant new magic is pure energy that can actually damage the beast, but defeating Vesuvius will also require everyone else. And then Vesuvius strikes Orion, and Orion is basically knocked unconscious, which kind of prompts Tavi to be like, yo, things are getting really bad. We should probably like evacuate those that need to be evacuated. And Nyx insists that actually happens. Nyx basically says, hi, Neopia needs a leader right now. Queen Fyora, will you lead evacuation efforts? Queen Fyora is like, yes, absolutely, I will do that. With that, Nyx begs Ozzy, hey, I can't lose you again. Will you go with Queen Fyora to safety? And Ozzy's like, no, I can't do that. I basically have caused what's happening. And I think I know what Orion means when he says the world is devoid of vibrancy. I know what to do. And that's how chapter 17 ends.
We start off chapter 18, the very last chapter of the plot, and it seems like Ozzy has had a revelation on how they can defeat Vesuvius. So he teams up with Iridesia, and the two of them snap the acrimonious paintbrush in half. And when they do that, it sends a rush of vibrant color that spreads all back throughout Neopia. So with all the color back in Neopia, Vesuvius is weakened, and he actually gets taken back into the rift, which Nyx almost gets taken into the rift as well, but she is saved by the rest of the heroes in our friend group. So she's good. She's okay. At this point, they go ahead and start rebuilding. They just had this big battle, so they have a lot of physical building to do, but they also have some emotional rebuilding to do. Nyx and Ozzy are able to finally have their reconciliation, and the most insane thing... Queen Fyora decides to abdicate her throne, and she decides that instead of her being the ruling queen, there should now be a new Faerie council that is led by Luxinia and Iridesia. So Queen Fyora is no more, just Fyora now, which is wild. At that point, Fyora offers Ozzy the chance to take a dip in the rainbow fountain, and he actually refuses and decides to remain gray, which I think was a really sweet moment. And to augment that really sweet moment, Styx also asks to become gray like Ozzy. Styx gives up his color so he can match Ozzy,
which is honestly a very sweet touch. I like the fact that like Styx has also been gray, so he knows what that's like, so he's not choosing something he doesn't know. Yes. But yeah, I think it's really cute.
Yeah. Then they end up having a housewarming party for Nyx and Ozzy, during which Ozzy gives Nyx a blessing to go on a hiking trip with Tavi to Meridel because he is trying to learn how to be a little more independent. And so the chapter closes with a heartwarming goodbye from Ozzy, and a solitary Vera is actually seen mourning the past, looking at the gray fairyland painting that Ozzy made that she originally purchased, which I think is huge, by the way, that she kept in the first place.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. In my mind, was like, oh yeah, like you bought that, but then it's like, oh no, but you still have it. Mm-hmm. You have it. Okay.
She liked it enough to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So all is well in Neopia. Everything's wrapped up and all better now. Just kidding. That's not true. Apparently, there's still a lingering void rift. And we have a tease that somebody else has actually been pulling the strings the whole time, indicating that Drakara was maybe not the big bad that we thought that she was maybe serving another master who's famously known from a PlayStation game that came out in the 2000s. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
We're just going to have to wait and see. We have no idea who it could be. Oh my God.
No clue.
This guy right here is kind of excited. Because that was ultimately what I want. I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't know anything, but I literally was like, I want the Darkest Faerie to make an appearance.
I feel like your prediction that it is the Darkest Faerie has to be it. Like, I know that you don't know for sure, but I am going to be absolutely flabbergasted if it's anything else, because it feels like it's such a direct point to it being that character. That this would be a huge bait and switch if it's not where this story is actually going to go next.
And what I do want to share, and for those that are not watching on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube because I'm going to put it in the video here. Something that I recognized that I thought I was crazy for, but in one of the illustrations for the short stories, we see Drakara. Drakara is standing with her hands on her hips. And she's like looking up into, I think, the left or the right. And I'm like, that's a pose that I've seen before. And then you look at her shadow, and I'm like, those wings are a different wing. So I go on Google, I'm getting chills. So I go on Google looking up the Darkest Faerie, and one of her key arts from back then is her standing with her hands on her hips that same way, looking the same direction. And then I went so far as to copied and pasted both images into Photoshop and overlaid the Darkest Faerie silhouette onto the drop shadow, and it is her shadow. So, unless this is a big bait and switch, it's either saying one of two things to me. I think it's either Drakara is the Darkest Faerie, not necessarily just her minion, but it has agreed to basically become her. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or like the puppetry is like the shadow it's always been her in the background. So
it's like in Little Mermaid when Ursula steals Ariel's voice, and then she goes into her human form and looks in the mirror, and you see her actually still being Ursula, even though she is in her human form.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
underneath the mask. Well, and I still stand by the comments that I made on our last episode, where it does not make sense to me for Drakara to be dead. She's nowhere to be found in these last chapters, but it makes no sense to me to build her up as this huge, big bad of this multi-year plot, and then for her to be gone so quickly. She was only in, 3-4 chapters. Do we have a timeline for when we're getting that epilogue?
This is direct from the release notes. While the story may be ending, it seems another is just beginning. The first void rift may have shrunk, yet it remains in the sky despite Drakara's defeat. Could someone else out there have been delving into the void this entire time? Be sure to keep an eye out after the plot officially ends next week for a few bonus updates, as well as a dark secret still waiting to be uncovered.
Dark secret, Dark Faerie. Just saying.
That's true. And not just Dark Faerie, but the Darkest Faerie. Am I right? Am I right? Okay, so I'm assuming we'll have some type of update on the 16th when the plot is over. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Alrighty, we are going to move into our final segment of the podcast episode, Keaton and Sarah lore. So we briefly chatted about who we are in our first podcast episode, but honestly, I went back and I listened to the first episode and realized there's a lot of stones left unturned, and I wanted to make sure that we squeezed a little bit more out of who we are, what Neopets means to us, what keeps us coming back to the site, how it's impacted our lives, etc., etc., etc. We know that how you found the website, your friend, Cy Bunnies, I never mentioned that I discovered Neopets in elementary school with two of my best friends at the time, Beth and Brianna, who was like, you should play this. I played it and I loved it more than them. And I created a guild on the website and added them as Neo friends and added them to the guild. And I was trying to be all cool with updates, but they just would not. They just like were not into it as much as I was. Sarah, I do want to ask you, would you please try to describe Neopets to someone who has never played before?
I actually found out that my father-in-law has been listening to this podcast.
Oh my God. Hi, father-in-law. Hi, father-in-law of Sarah.
He was like, hey, I listened to your podcast and I have no idea what you guys are talking about half the time. And I mean, like, that makes sense. He has no context for anything with the site. It's a website that was started back in the 90s. So it's a little clunky, but it has a lot of different features on it. So one of the main features on it is that you can adopt different virtual pets. You can interact with them. There's places on the site where you can purchase toys and grooming products and food. They also have customization options. So you can buy different outfits to dress your pet up in. There are different paintbrushes that kind of act like, I don't like calling it skins, but that's what the equivalent would be like in another video game, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I'll say colors. Colors feels better than skins. So you can get different colors. And that's kind of like the very base level of the site. So then when you go up a level of the site, all of those things cost Neopoints. That's the currency of the site. And you can earn Neopoints in different ways. You can get them through random events. You can get them through visiting certain spots. You can also play games. And there are a lot of different games, like arcade-style games, on the website that you can play and earn Neopoints. And then you can turn around and use those Neopoints to buy other things. Then there's also another layer of it. It's like have you seen those iceberg illustrations where it's like the top of the iceberg and then like...
It's like Neopets is a virtual pet site, but it's not.
But it's not. No, exactly. The next level is then getting into like the economic side of it.
Yeah, it has its own economy of items that you can purchase and sell. And whether you start your shop or you're trading something on the trading post or you're putting up an auction.
You can get stocks and you can buy and trade stocks. Not real stocks, Neopet specific stocks.
Play the lottery, like...
So that's a whole other side of it. Oh, I didn't even talk about the map. There are all these different lands that you can explore. And so you can explore the whole Neopia world and go to all those lands and see all those different things. And then there's also the social side of it. I mean, we have the Neo boards where you can get on and you can chat with other people. There's also an art side to it where you can submit your artwork to be judged by people and to get posted in online galleries. Like pick the fun thing that you like to do on the internet. Is that gambling? Is that scratch cards? Is that RPGs? Pick one and it's on Neopets in some form or another.
That is ultimately what I end up telling people is like, they're like, oh, it's Neopets. I go, oh, it's a virtual pet site from 1999. You know, you adopt a pet, you can dress it up, you can do that. But then you try and get further into it and it becomes like, what is it? A Russian nesting doll of like things that you can do and explore. It's so difficult to explain, but I love that you just broke it down as think of something that you would want to do on the internet and go to Neopets. It's probably there. Mm-hmm. Whether it's like writing something for the Neopian Times, which is its own newspaper, whether it is drawing, whether it's writing poetry, whether it's, like you said, dressing up your pet, doing something economic, win the lottery, buy and trade stocks, do food club, which is its own form of betting. Do your dailies. I want to go to the Lost Desert. Looks like Egypt. I want to go to Terra Mountain. Looks like Antarctica. I want to go to Mystery Island, which is exactly what you think it looks like. It's just so crazy because I there are some people in my life that I'm surprised I've never heard of it still to this day. And I'm like, how have you not heard of it? In a former episode, you mentioned that Neopets was the internet for you. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear as to why, because there is so much involved. You can
Yeah.
do so much to this day. And that's why I think it still is stuck around, and why, I mean, more to the point, why I keep coming back. I took like a hiatus. I would probably say like high school, mid-college. So I was gone for a good chunk. And then college into when I moved to New York City in 2016 is kind of when I came back. And then that from 2016 on, so 10 years at this point, I've been back. It is ultimately the realization that also nostalgia plays into it, but the fact that there is so much to do. That when people are like, oh, instead of scrolling on my phone, I'm just going to go to neopets.com/home and scratch what are those called? A scratch card.
Scratch card?
I'm gonna scratch a scratch card. Why not?
go.
Why not simulate life in a world that's full of vibrancy and color that makes you happy and joyful? Did you ever take a hiatus?
I have. I've taken multiple over many years. I was on the site for several years throughout elementary school, and then I ended up dropping off more towards middle and high school because I actually got really into online blogging, which makes sense because I was constantly on the Neo boards coming up with stories, and I'm a story person at heart, and so I loved sharing stories on Neopia, and that then transferred into a different website for me. So that was it for a while. It was like Neopets and my blog. And then fun fact, my first account got frozen, and
same.
But after my account got frozen, I did take a pretty significant hiatus from the site. But then I really ended up starting to get back into it at the very end of college. I was so stressed, and I don't know why, but I was like, you know what? Like, I just want to play some arcade games on the computer. And I was like, well, Neopets has a bunch, so let me go see if that's still there, I guess. I created a new account. It was just a really good way to kind of disconnect from what I was dealing with when I was trying to finish my last semester of college and plan a wedding at the same time. And I was going through some medical stuff, and I was student teaching, and I was trying to get my first big kid job. And I was trying to move from, you know, the state I grew up in to the state that I moved now. It was just like, I cannot tell you how stressful of a time that was. And my reaction was, let me go back to Neopets and just play some games. And it kind of became like a pressure release valve for me as a way to just disconnect from everything that was going on and just like have some fun.
I think a lot of people have that experience, and why they stay with it for so long, like going like with the idea of like what keeps us coming back. I think that's probably inherently what I'm also doing, which is why I've been with it, especially as an adult, because you do have the baked in nature of like, oh, I did this as a kid. So you do have the nostalgic factor that is helpful in helping release some of that stress or that pressure. But then what are you focusing on? Are you mindlessly playing these flash games? Are you visiting Coldson Shrine? Are you chatting with strangers on the Neo boards, you know? I never thought of it from that perspective, but I will literally sit on the couch almost every night if I don't have social engagements and play Neopets. Basically, Neopets is not my hobby. It is more than that, and it's so hard to explain without sounding like a crazy person. What I say is, if you could have something from your childhood 25 years ago still exist in basically its same form, and that something from your childhood gave you so much joy, would you want that later in life? That's why I want to also keep it around for so long, and why I talk about it, why we have a podcast, why I post about it, why it gave me, that is the other thing, it helped me learn skills that very much is how I have the job that I have now. And that's a whole other thing we didn't talk about, like, what is Neopets? Neopets also allowed people to, with the coming of age in the early 2000s, learn HTML and CSS coding and learn graphic design, because you have a lookup and you can design your lookup. You can design your guild layout. And through those experiences, or your pet page. Like your pet has a pet page, which is basically an early form of your own website.
Mm-hmm.
And you can toy with basic stylings, especially back in the early 2000s. And so that alone, I was able to illegally download Photoshop, which I do now legally pay for. But back then in the early 2000s, I would get an illegal copy of Photoshop and I would Photoshop a cute layout, learn how to code it, and put it on a pet page. And I essentially made a website in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And like that.
How old would you have been? How old would you have been at that point? You would have been like what?
10.
10? Yeah. You're coding websites at the age of 10.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And then you like obviously continue doing it, and then you kind of maybe you learn more because you want to dive further and learn other programming languages, or you actually learn what design is or what typography is and kind of go from there. But had I not had that in the early 2000s, I would not be a graphic designer or a brand designer in 2026. Mm-hmm. And so I also owe this little site a lot more than just happiness and dopamine hits. I owe them probably my livelihood, which sounds insane. But here we are.
I don't think it sounds insane. I have two comments. So one of the things is you talk about how hard it is to describe your love specifically for Neopets. And that is something that I think makes you really unique. Like, I have never met someone who loves Neopets as much as you do and has it so integrated into their life as you do. And so I think that part of where it becomes hard to explain that is it's hard to explain the site. You know, there's not really a one-to-one comparison to make. The only thing that I could really think of was if you were maybe a kid who grew up loving building model cars and taking them apart and putting them together, and now you're an adult who is a mechanic or who does any kind of customization work on a car because you love it so much. That's a real thing. There are people who grew up doing something in their childhood that they loved, and then now it is still part of their adulthood. And a lot of people have to do that on a different scale because it changes. It's just in this situation, because the website is still so similar to how it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it's its own unique thing, you know? It's a pop culture thing. Like, we don't hate on people for being super into Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I feel like those are very similar but not completely accurate comparisons as well. Somebody who is like my dad's age, who grew up loving Star Wars, who still currently loves Star Wars, you know, it's that, but it's with a website.
Neopets is a brand, and it's an IP. There are lovable characters. There's lore. That's another thing we completely just like. Yes, there's pets, but there's also characters. Honestly, what this does remind me of, and something that like I know people can kind of understand and relate to, are like role-playing games, mm-hmm. or like live service role-playing games. Like, people will log mm-hmm. into Final Fantasy 14 and spend hours traversing the world, dressing up their character, getting a pet. That's what this is, but this was the very early stages of that, and it still mm-hmm. exists. So mm-hmm. But it's so weird because it is so colorful, because it is so vibrant, because it had Happy Meal toys even. The fact that it looks a certain way, I also think juvenile. I think elementary. I think it is Keaton is obsessed with something from his childhood and has not gotten over it. Mm-hmm. And no one has ever said this, so this is definitely a feeling. It is. I'm not putting anyone on blast, but it is frustrating in those moments of like, I can't explain to you what this means to me. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm starting a podcast to let you all know that it's more than just an obsession. And I'm glad that you at least understand.
Yeah. My second comment.
Oh my God, yes, go ahead.
My love for writing and storytelling developed around the exact same time that I was getting into Neopets. And I think that's why I loved the boards so much, especially the role-playing boards, was because I was getting to invent characters and I was getting to come up with their backstory and I was getting to develop them out and then have like real time conversations with people where you're bouncing off of each other and you're doing improv to a certain extent because it's collaborative storytelling and you don't know what the other person is going to say and your character has to react to that and react to their character. It required a lot of creative thinking. And I think that really nurtured that creative storytelling writer part of me that wasn't necessarily being nurtured in any other contexts at that time. And it's funny because I think about my whole life since then. I've wanted to be a storyteller in one shape or another. And part of the reason I'm not there now is I feel like I didn't get support from my IRL community to pursue a career in writing. But on Neopets, that was a place where I could just do that for fun and honestly get like live in-time feedback from the other people that I was building collaborative stories with. Where else do you get that? Like that's
you don't, unless you pay for like a course, like a storytelling or a copywriting course, and then like you kind of are forced to like do that in class or like college or something. And like more to your point, there's a budding multiple communities on this website, but like an overwhelming amount of art. And like there are brands out there that would literally pay money for people to create fan art, create fan fiction, create things to help sell this brand. And the fact that this is its own entity that has all of this baked in, and it's just people that are fully bought in. Like, I want to tell a story, I'm going to write it. And not only do I want to do that, but I want to give you feedback because I am also invested in the story that you want to tell. Like, I don't know how that happens. It is actually lightning in a bottle, in my opinion.
They provide us the space. They give us the tools, they give us the space, and they say, go create, go express yourself, go do the things that you want to try out doing that maybe you don't get the opportunity to try out in the real world. Try it here in the safety of the internet. As safe as the internet is, but
right. Well, and
within
obviously
the safety of Neopets.
The safety of Neopets in its own little bubble. And I will say that you are a storyteller and you are working towards telling those stories in life.
So I did not have a lot of Neopets merch growing up. My knowledge of the merch that was available was very limited. So I knew about the little plushies that you could get in the McDonald's Happy Meals toys. I did not keep mine. Unfortunately, they all went out to the garage sale at one point. However, there was one toy that it had to have been at Meijer. That's the only thing that makes sense. So Meijer is basically not quite a Target, but like not a Walmart. It's kind of like in between the two. And they are really more popular up north.
So is it like a big box store?
Yeah, it's like a big box store.
Okay.
And that's where we're growing up. We would do like all of our grocery shopping was done at Meijer, but they also have like a giant toy section and they have a giant clothes section and they have, they have everything. They had these little Neopet characters. They were like mini animatronics and their belly button was a button that you could press and it would like talk and sing, and they were also voice activated. And if you turn it on, you could like talk to it.
I never had one, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Did you get a Kachik?
I got a blue Kachik. This just makes me so happy. After you and I had met, after I knew about this love of Neopets you had, after you had floated the idea to do this podcast, I was visiting my parents and I was in their basement for some reason, and I found a box of my old toys that they still had for some reason. And so I started looking through it, and it had a couple old like stuffies and like Beanie Babies that I had from when I was a kid. But also in there was my little blue Kachik. And so now he's at work with me. He sits on my desk and hangs out with me every day at work, and is just my little buddy. And it makes me so happy because like I said, like I really didn't have access to or knowledge of all of the merch that existed at the time. Like that was the only real piece of merch that I ever had, and I still have it, which makes me just So, like, I cannot tell you how happy that makes me. It makes me so, so happy that I still have it in my life.
No, and I love that it's like still in your life to where it's no longer in the box, but like a part of your work environment.
Yeah.
I will say I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I probably
we know.
way too much. I probably still have stuff at home packed away somewhere with the merchandise, but what I will say is I never owned any of those little figurines that you're talking about. I do what?
You're making up for it now, though.
I am making it up for it now. Thank you so much. I am. So there was one thing, there's a couple of things. I didn't have a ton growing up. I had 3 plushies that I definitely bought like at Limited 2 or Claire's. And then I had the Happy Meal toys. So clearly I was going to McDonald's quite a bit because I have quite a bit of those. But I do remember my mom did allow me to subscribe to the Neopets magazine, and I know I have them somewhere in that house, in my childhood home. So I need to go at some point and look for them, but there's just so much to sift through. But I know that I have those Neopets magazines somewhere. And then another thing that is related to merchandise but unrelated, when Neocash cards came onto the scene, I was the target audience. I was the little boy who was like, Mom, can we go to the store? And she would be in the grocery section. I would rush to the electronics section, grab like a $10 Neocash card and drop it into the shopping cart. And then at checkout, Mom would be like, oh, how'd this get in there? Or she wouldn't notice it. And I would just get a $10 Neocash card and redeem it on Neopets.com and get Neocash. But here's the thing, Sarah. I'm going to admit it. I did that, had to be 20, 30, 40 times. My mom spent a lot of money unknowingly, which is not great for a single mother and an only child.
You better call her and apologize as soon as we're done recording this.
But I will say is I definitely know that she probably was a lot more aware of it than I, as a kid, thought I was like pulling the wool over her eyes. But
that's
her being
probably true.
Her being someone that like definitely spoiled me growing up, I think she probably knew what she was doing. Maybe not to the extent of how much money it was, because like $10 here and there adds up. But yeah, so that's one thing that I distinctly remember trying to like make happen for myself. But other than that, I really didn't have a lot of merchandise. So now I'm making up for it. It's okay. Thank you.
You're an adult. You have adult money. You can do what you want with it. And that wraps up our discussion for today.
In our next episode, we'll be finalizing our warm-up routines as we discuss the start of this year's Altador Cup press tour. We'll also be tying a nice little bow, hopefully, on The Void Within by chatting about the teased epilogue and the long-awaited final plot prizes.
And we might just be welcoming our very first special guest joining us for an exclusive interview.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidebar. Feel free to subscribe and share the show with your Neo friends.
You can follow the show on Instagram at Sidebar the Pod.
And you can follow me at Keaton Jadwin. And you can also watch the video edition of this podcast over on YouTube at Sidebar the Pod. Until next time,
keep a lookout for any suspiciously dark fairies that hold their hands on their hips in a very specific way.